So Chad Johnson has been the Pierce County Highway Commissioner since 2009. Prior to that, he worked as a heavy grading contractor and as a project manager, and would often serve as the erosion control inspector for his projects. He graduated from Marquette University with a civil engineering degree and did co-op education with the Department of Transportation. So welcome, Chad. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll just let you know when to click the slides.
Yeah, sounds good.
I will be honest, after I reviewed the agenda, I looked at myself as the bad guy on this agenda, but I'm hoping to convey with you some of our policies and challenges that we have in managing the roadsides. Go ahead. Like Lisa said, I've been there since at the highway department since 2009. So we've seen some changes. When I first started, the invasives weren't as respected as they should have been. And now they're getting a lot more attention. And there's a lot of people at DOT that are dedicated to roadside management programs and practices. Okay, go ahead.
For some reason, Bill, could you come take a quick look? No, it's not advancing. So, hang on, I don't know if it's showing up there, so I think I'm in there, but I'm not seeing it on my screen. It's open on the screen, We have somebody calling in via Zoom for the second presentation.
Keep going, Chad. I'll get you.
All right, so I'm just going to cover a few bullet points here. I'll go through some terminology. I'll discuss our current practices, some of our challenges, and then our future efforts will be what I'm going to go ahead and talk about.
There we go.
Okay.
Yay, thank you.
I'll let you go on the slides. Where are we at?
Go to the next one, please.
Okay.
All right, great. Thanks. All right, here we go. So I call it a modern road, and a modern road, one that's maybe been reconstructed within the last 20 years. We have the road, the pavement. We're usually putting down about 24 feet of pavement, two 12-foot lanes or two 11-foot lanes with 1 foot of paved shoulder, and then varying width of gravel shoulder, depending on the room we have. We're trying to go with at least a 3-foot gravel shoulder. All these for safety. You know, we have a lot of farms in Pierce County. You mentioned the ag land. Lisa mentioned the ag land. I just did a presentation for Transportation Development Association, and I asked our land management, what percentage of Pierce County is in farmland? Anyone want to guess? Maybe you know. I was kind of surprised, given all the river valleys and rolling terrain we have. What percentage of Pierce County's farm is actually at 44%. So I thought that was a pretty big number for the terrain we have. So I was discussing the conditions of our roads at Transportation Development Association, and the fact that the farms, because of economy of scale, they're not hauling grain in a little gravity box and a little farm haul tractor anymore. It's semis, tractors with duals. So that's why we try to get the shoulder width, the paved shoulder, and the shoulder width decent, so those duals and heavy equipment aren't breaking up the roads. Then we get into what I would call the roadside, and that's from the shoulder point, the edge of the shoulder, to the right-of-way line. Right-of-way on an older road is going to be a standard of 66 feet total, so 33 feet each side of center line. On the reconstructs that we do, because of that shoulder width I said we're trying to get, and because of the necessity to have decent inslopes and back slopes, we're between 80 and 100 feet of right of way. The inslope from the shoulder down to the ditch point, we're usually trying to get a 4-to-1 slope, so that's 4 over, 1 down, 4 feet over, 1 foot down. And that's for safety if a car departs the roadway. The back slope, usually 3-to-1, sometimes 2.5-to-1, but 3-to-1 is preferred, both for erosion and safety. Steeper than a 3-to-1, you need to do erosion mat. There's just other challenges associated. Sometimes we need to jam it in the right of way. The clear zone, typically on our roadways, is 9 feet. So from an edge of traveled way, edge of blacktop, out 9 feet, besides a mailbox or a sign, we're supposed to keep that clear. No trees, no boulders, rocks, decorations in a 55-mile-an-hour area. Sometimes there may only be an inslope if it's a big fill section and there's no ditch bottom. But normally it's what you see there, the typical ditch. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, Wisconsin is the only state in the United States in which county highway departments perform maintenance for the state. The Wisconsin DOT does not have their own plow trucks. They do not have their own mowing tractors. They do not have their own patching crews. Each county signs a routine maintenance agreement with the DOT and performs the maintenance for the state. So they're essentially our biggest customer. Now, construction's a different story. The rebuild of 29 out here, the big construction projects, they're contracted out. But as far as routine maintenance, we perform that for the state. And that's the pavements, the shouldering, and the roadside management. In Pierce County, there are approximately 178 centerline miles of state highway, 248 centerline miles of county highway. State roads being the numbered roads, your 65, 35, 29, county roads being all the lettered roads. I do not know the mileage of town highways, but there's a significant mileage of town highways in the county also. So I just plugged in 15 feet for a roadside number. Okay, next slide. Just for my own use. Does anyone want to guess how many acres that adds up to if I go 15 feet on each side of state and county highways? Without pulling out your phone and using your calculator.
I was gonna take a photo. So I do have my cell phone, but for the whole county, for Pierce County?
Yeah. Anyone want to guess?
I'm gonna go with
D.
C.
C. 1,549 acres of roadside, if it was a 15-foot. Now some of them are less, some of them are more. I just picked 15 feet as a number. So that's the kind of space we're talking about here today. Okay, next slide, please. Our current practices are mostly patterned after DOT, after the state mowing and roadside management policies. They're not in order except for the first one. All of them are pivoted around safety. The rest of them that are up on the screen can kind of go in any order, but mowing is for safety. It states specifically in the DOT policy that mowing is not to be done for aesthetics. Reduction of woody vegetation is a big part of it. I talked about that clear zone, not having trees within 9 feet of the edge of the pavement. So we have to keep that brush knocked down, typically box elders in Pierce County. The brushing, is necessary and it occurs. We prefer not to have to do it. It's a necessary part of our operation, but it just creates a lot more safety concerns for the workforce. In the past 2 years, 2 of my fellow commissioners in the West Central District, or 11 counties, have lost people in tree accidents. One being Clark County, where a tree fell in a storm. Not really related to brushing, but still a fatality for them. when a drunk driver hit a person cleaning up a tree at night. And then Buffalo County lost a guy in a kind of a routine tree cutting accident. So the brushing, we prefer not to create extra brushing. Erosion, you get too many box elders, you start to shade out the grass. We don't want any raw dirt in our inslopes, ditch bottoms, back slopes. We want that all to maintain vegetation so we don't see any erosion. Drainage, you saw the ditch section. Drainage is very important. We can't have ponding water next to the road. We like to keep 1% minimum slope on our ditches, so it's important to keep them clean, free of woody vegetation. And then reduce invasive species. I'm not even going to say eliminate invasive species, but if we can try to keep a handle on them. And I know there's the constant discussion about, well, okay, county, you mowed, but then the farmer or landowner, probably not a farmer, more of a landowner, they don't mow, and there's the invasive species right across the line. I can't really do anything about that. I have to stay within the right of way. So, that's another part of the discussion. Okay, next slide, please. As I mentioned, we do the work for the DOT. They require us in the counties that are in pink, we're in the pink, or Pierce County up here. Our mowing deadline for them, because they mow once a year, they used to mow twice a year, they changed it to once a year for cost savings, is July 15th. So we do our county mowing first and then mow for the state. We have 3 mowers. That picture in the last slide, we have 3 15-foot gang mowers because that's the swath that the state wants mowed, so that's the size mower we stick with. This does work out for us to participate in No Mow May. Now we're cutting it close. I looked, I printed our timesheets for our time. We started June 1st, but we didn't mow in May. So I'm happy to say that we are able to participate in that. Now, intersection visibility is, you can't kick on the intersection mowing. If there's a visibility problem at an intersection, a 90-degree intersection or a different angle intersection, we do have to mow that. Usually that doesn't occur before June 1st, so we can catch that with our regular mowing. But we have had to do some spot mowing in intersections for visibility. And then we do a second mowing on the county system in the fall. We wrapped that up a couple weeks ago. 15-foot cut. And then every 3 years we'll do a little wider to keep that woody vegetation knocked down that I talked about. Okay, next slide. Oh, you got it. Okay. Another quiz. 266 year to date. Does anyone want to guess what this represents? It's related to the picture, but not in the picture.
Beer bottles in the roadside.
No. Probably way more than that.
Deer accidents.
That is right, deer accidents.
Oh,
Via the
wow.
Sheriff's Department as of yesterday, that's reported car versus deer accidents. So back to safety. And it's related to the picture because you can see where it's been mowed. This is a town road, town union. You can see where it's been mowed, you can see where it's not been mowed. And that's tall, that's some tall stuff. In a wet year, we talked about the DOT and their one mowing. So usually what the counties will do, will wait and finish at the deadline. They won't start early, they'll wait and finish at the deadline so the stuff doesn't grow back. But in a wet year, if you run the Interstate 94 and those counties haven't started mowing yet, right off the shoulder, that grass can be 4 feet tall. Going 75 miles an hour and a deer pokes out of there, you don't have a chance. So that's one of the little disadvantages of the DOT's policy of one mowing a year is everyone cheats it to the end so they don't get a lot of regrowth, and then you end up with some pretty tall stuff on the interstate that can hide wildlife and create some danger for motorists. Okay. some of our challenges, like we're all here talking about, just the alignment of interests, the habitat, the invasive species, the safety. There's got to be a sweet spot somewhere, but we just have to pool our resources and figure out where that is. We do operate with a budget. The brush crew that I talked about, that's expensive. That can get expensive, especially for hauling away with dump trucks. Backhoe, men with chainsaws, flag people. That adds up. Mechanical versus herbicides. We do some herbicide application, primarily guardrail. I do not have a total of guardrail in the county. My sign guys are working on GPSing it all and getting me a total distance. But it's, looking at our terrain, it's fairly significant. And to put a person out there weed whipping around that guardrail take a long time, or a lot of guys. Plus I'd have to have a couple of flaggers with them, because usually you've got a steep slope behind the guardrail. That's why the guardrail's there. I can't have the guy jumping back and forth, jumping into traffic from behind the guardrail. So, right now we're doing a burn down on the guardrail, both on the state and the county system. We do some woody vegetation spray. We have not done anything with plant growth regulators yet. Some counties are starting to do that. So what that is they'll spray, instead of mowing the 15 feet, they'll spray the 15 feet with a plant growth regulator that won't kill the grass, but it'll, say, stunt it. I'm not an expert on plant growth regulators. They'll also mix in some herbicide to target invasive species, and that's in an effort to not have to mow. So I don't know what the effects of that plant growth regulator are on pollinators. So the state, will be doing research on that, and looking at their costs, how those affect their roadside management costs. The other thing I struggle with sometimes is operator compliance. So you see this mower, that's in the shop. Why is there grass on it? That's the question I hollered at the patrol suit. Why was this mower not cleaned off when it came out of the ditch where it last mowed? So I struggle with the operators once in a while. I'm not saying that mower is full of weed seeds, but I'm sure there's some in there. We just have to get better at cleaning the stuff off when they pop out before they travel to their next beat. Okay, next slide. Okay, some of our future efforts. We do have suitcase weights on the front of all of our mowing tractors, so I've tasked the welders with figuring out a way to put some flushing bars on those tractors. Those are bars with some chains that hang down that will flush animals and insects out of the grass in advance of that mower crossing that area. So we're working on some flushing bars. I do have a brand new patrol superintendent as of yesterday. The former patrol superintendent was in his position since 2002. He retired, so congratulations to him. We named a new patrol sup yesterday. So we'll be revisiting all of our operations with him. The roadside stuff, the plowing, all of it. To see where we're at, see what little changes we can make. Maybe there's some big changes we can make. So Travis and I will be working very closely on that. We'll also be monitoring the DOT programs and initiatives. We did have a pollinator speaker at one of our commissioner trainings. I think it was last spring. So they're working on it too. They're in the same quandary of interest in pollinators, safety, invasive species. So there's people working on it. It's just that Wisconsin doesn't have probably as advanced programs as what's in the card, Iowa and what are the other states? So it's-
Texas.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And you said on the card Minnesota's working on some stuff too.
yeah.
Back to budget. This is our County B reconstruction project that we did outside of Spring Valley. We did get some grant money for the project. They put the estimate together in 2020, so our costs, were significantly greater than what the estimate was in 2020. There's a big back slope behind the paver that the adjacent, we acquired that right away to soften that curve, lay back a safer slope. And the landowner really wanted native species. I said, yeah, that's a great idea, let's look into that. And then I priced the seed. It was like $3,500 a bag, and I said, I'm sorry, I can't do it. I didn't have it in the estimate. So there was an opportunity with some more money from another source. The landowner didn't exactly volunteer to pay for it either after I paid her for the land. So it's just kind of a bummer, but at the same time, I have to bring these projects in within budget. So we're only going to mow 15 feet of that slope. The rest of the slope will remain native. We'll have to keep an eye on the woody vegetation. We're not gonna mow the whole slope, but if the price of the seed could come a little more in line with the normal seed we use, then I'd be all for it. But I just couldn't pull the trigger on a $3,500 bag of seed.
How many pounds was that?
I don't remember.
Yeah.
I don't remember if it was a 50-pound bag or
Oh, it had to have been more than that.
it was a mix that was given to me by a DOT project manager, so it was stuff that had been used, as a mix approved by DOT.
Just for comparison, I just ordered some seed for a 1.63 acre piece of land on my farm, and the estimate from Shooting Star Native Seed Nursery was $357, and it's a beautiful mix of flowers and grasses.
Sure.
So, I think, we need to help you shop around a
Yeah,
little bit.
I mean, it's gotta be something that, if it's something that DOT approves, then I'm all for it.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. I guess, so that's what I have.
Questions? Yeah.
I did, and I do have to leave after this. I plan on watching everyone else's presentation. But if you come up with any questions as other people speak, or just questions on your own, feel free to email me at the county.
Thank you, Chad.
I guess, are there any questions immediately right now? Go ahead.
Sure. So, it seems to me that July 15th mowing completion date, if you're trying to protect anything that's used in the ditches,
Yeah.
seems odd to me. I mean, nesting birds, pheasants, you name it, right? I mean, you're gonna take them out. Most of the things are starting to flower at that point. So it just seems like an odd completion date.
And that, when the DOT switched from 2 mowings to 1 mowing, that's what you end up with.
So I'm sure Cody from Pheasants Forever, who will be speaking to us later, will have some thoughts about that as well. I had the same thought. July 15th makes my heart break, because I picture all the birds that are setting up shop, or they've got, eggs hatching and little birds fledging. And I'm not picking on you, Chad, I'm just hoping that we can.
Yeah, that's the DOT policy, so you can't
Yeah.
really kick on me for it. They have to follow
No,
it.
I'm not
Sure,
either.
we're a service provider to them.
Believe me,
And we've been begging them to go back to 2 mowings, but that was their easy haircut when they needed to cut costs and maintenance. I think they had some bad winters that hammered them. And you sure can't back off on your winter maintenance, then you're gonna have a whole another set of problems.
The thing is, there are other federal agencies, go ahead, what else
So
you
they
gonna
were
say?
at 2 mowings, what were their dates for those?
I think it was similar to the county, where we do like a June and September, or June, late August. I think if I recall, because it's been quite a few years now, I think we just went from one to the other, and I don't remember which one we did first at that time, but it was, we probably got into May with that,
Sure.
to get our county mowing and state mowing done, so, yeah, I guess I can't specifically.
Will every year be a no mow May now?
If if I can get the state mowing done by July 15th, by starting my county mowing in June, then that's the way I'm gonna do it. Yeah.
Chad, you mentioned some of those growth regulators and stuff. Have you guys been spraying any invasives, or is it all been mowing?
We haven't targeted any invasives. It's every time, we could be driving around with pure water in that spray truck and I'm gonna get a call. You know, so it's, the spray thing is, it's necessary. I mean, I talked about the guardrail, that the crew I would have to have the weed whip around guardrail would just be cost prohibitive. So we have to, and that's a narrow, the guardrail's a narrow band. We're catching the guardrail. We're not kicking it out, you know, with 5 different tips, 5 separate tips going way beyond the guardrail. We're banding right over the top of that guardrail.
Right.
So that's a pretty narrow swath.
Okay,
Um,
I'm afraid we're gonna have to stop
yeah,
questions in the interest
sorry.
of keeping on time, but thank you
All
so
right,
much,
you
Chad.
bet. Any questions, just
Really,
email
really
me.
good
Thank
to
you.
know, good information.